My God covers the splendid lands of this world with love.
Audacity. Pure, unmitigated audacity. Today's video essay is one I have been very excited about. Today, we will be looking at Capcom's ill-fated but deliciously flamboyant series, Sengoku Basara. With the latest installment of Dynasty Warriors pushing serious business more seriously than it's ever serious before, I think it's important to take a look at something that is, well, anything but serious, even at its most serious. So please, enjoy.
Yeah, so I'll kill you!
Effortless style, stunning aesthetics, pure, unimpeachable, historical accuracy. So much historical accuracy.
If I told anyone what I saw here today, no one would believe me.
An almost one-to-one account of feudal Japan, where the samurai were seeing their final days, warlords were tearing the nation apart, and it wasn't unusual to see a redhead with a revolving thigh-de-lia summon a cloud of assault rifles before blowing everyone in the vicinity to Kingdom Come with a homing rocket launcher. Ah, those were the days. And this is Sengoku Basara, otherwise known as what happens when someone at Capcom plays Dynasty Warriors and feels it's too much like a documentary. Very much like Tecmo Koei's signature series, Sengoku Basara is a hack-and-slash game inspired by historical events, loosely, and you tackle an entire army of enemies. It does what any good entry into the subgenre does. It's big, it's dumb, it's over the top, and its cast of eccentric characters dress like a clown exploded in a firework factory. This, however, is not where Sengoku Basara stops. Oh no. It goes much further, as far as the point at which it could qualify as genuinely unhinged, and then it goes a bit further than that. To call it anachronistic is to get 10% toward articulating the extreme liberties taken. It portrays 1600s Japan as an era of humongous mecha, giant sun lasers, and battle tank horses. Tadakatsu Honda was a legendary samurai, a very genuine historical figure, but if you believe Sengoku Basara, he was Frankenstein's Gundam, a zombie robot who another guy would ride around on the back of. Then there's the anime man drama, particularly the rivalry between Ieyasu Tokugawa and Mitsunari Yoshida, which plays out with totally no homo-romantic implications whatsoever. No, this two seagulls' asses taped together looking guy isn't in violent denial about how much he wants to bone the other one at all.
Hate him! Hurt him! Torture him! Destroy him!
I'm sorry!
I would. That's Troy Baker, by the way, in what I genuinely consider one of his finest performances in a cast that includes Liam O'Brien, Laura Bailey, and a host of other famous voices acting their bloody hearts out and helping to make an already funny game frigging hilarious.
Ridiculous.
This game is amazing. It's also surprisingly deep for what it is, despite initially appearing even more shallow than the average hack and slash. On that last note, Sengoku Basara Samurai Heroes is the first old game I reviewed back in the day that's actually better than I remember it instead of worse, and that I wish I could go back and score higher. I liked it back in the day, I had nice things to say about it, but I wasn't playing it to a hyper-fixated degree back then. I wasn't obsessed enough to dig under the hood and find this game's hidden potential. The further I dig into it, the more I admire. what it's doing. Unfortunately, I can only speak with any real detail about that one game in the series, Samurai Heroes, due to Sengoku Basara's tumultuous release history. In fact, it seems beyond unlikely that we'll ever see another game in the series again, which is a tragedy on multiple fronts. As Dynasty Warriors grows ever more obsessed with realism to a point of po-faced mundanity, I feel we need more than ever a Muso-style game that yeets shame into the ocean and provides exaggerated, nonsensical, gloriously stupid mayhem. And I swear I'm not going to keep comparing this game to Dynasty Warriors like a bitter ex. At least, not to Mitsunari degrees.
How much will it take before you're satisfied? How much? Even the last of my allies you woo to your side with your forked tongue. How am I supposed to live? What am I supposed to do now?
Only 2 games in the series have left Japan, the first and the third, and the first one's attempt at cracking the West was questionable. Let me introduce you to Devil Kings. Released for the PS2 in 2005, Devil Kings is one of the most audacious exercises in desperate marketing failure you could hope to see in a medium. It was my and many other people's introduction to Sengoku Basara, which I, as a Dynasty Warriors fan, had heard about and was very excited to see come to the United Kingdom. And then I read online what they'd done to it before it got here, and let's just say my excitement was tempered. As you might have guessed from its thoroughly awful name, Devil Kings took Sengoku Basara and repackaged it in a misguided attempt to make it more palatable for Western audiences, and amusingly, because Capcom wanted Devil in the title to try and capitalise on the recent success of Devil May Cry. It wasn't just the title though. Every character was renamed, and their new monikers were embarrassing to say the least. Nobunaga became Devil King. Yes, that's his name. His name is simply Devil King. I assume it's on his birth certificate. Many of the names are cases of thoughtless literalism, as whoever came up with them just looked at the characters and said what they saw like they were on catchphrase. This chilly fella went from Kenshin to simply Frost, while Honda was called Iron Ox. You know, because he's metal and has horns, good enough. Other names were simply stupid. You had Lark, you had Bramble, you had Puff, you had Cue-Ball. Cue-Ball. The guy who got the worst deal by far is Shingen Takeda, who, on the basis of his red outfit and bull-themed aesthetic, was called Red Minotaur. I shit you not. They called him Red Minotaur. It's been 20 years, and I'm still not over Red Minotaur. Never has trying looked so much like they never even tried. Red Minotaur. Accompanying the name changes was an entirely rewritten story, as management decided in its brilliance that Western audiences wouldn't be interested in a game based on Japanese history. All references to said history were wiped, replaced by a dark fantasy plot where some people are fighting to conquer some place for some reasons. To this end, the localization went so far as to reskin enemy character models and environmental details to wallpaper the original with a smorgasbord of fantastical imagery, including demon soldiers and Egyptian stuff. That's a significant amount of effort for a game that called a guy Red Minotaur. When did I start saying Minotaur instead of Minotaur? It was the one word in all my years of living in America that I swore I'd never Americanize. For a language that changed a lot of English words to sound like how they're written, why did American English go with Minotaur? Sadly, the effort did not stop at the setting. For no reason that I'll ever accept, Devil Kings decimated the selection of playable characters, turning a significant number of Sengoku Basara's roster into mere NPCs. In a weird compromise, the surviving roster had their movesets overhauled, edited, and expanded. This was, of course, no trade-off. Nothing is a trade-off for a hot twink edgelord with scythes. Also exclusive to Devil Kings is a system where strong attacks would prime enemies, turning their health bars yellow and having them take multiple hits per attack. Unlike Sengoku Basara, you could only fill the meter for your ultimate attack, called Basara Attack in the original and Fury in the West, by hitting primed enemies, making it a much slower process than it used to be. Additionally, though this wasn't just a Devil King's quirk, games would do it all the time back then, they shifted the difficulty settings so that this game's normal difficulty was actually Sengoku Basara's hard mode. Stupidly though, they didn't scale the end of level rewards accordingly, which meant you couldn't get strong enough gear to keep up. I've been emulating it on my Steam Deck recently and I forgot what a nightmare it was. On normal difficulty, the lowliest Mook Soldier can take your health bar from full to zero in a couple of hits. Thank Zavi for save states is all I'm gonna say. Devil Kings went far beyond mere meddling in the transition from Sengoku Basara. The sheer amount of additional effort put into screwing the game up is remarkable, but the results were forgettable. I bought Devil Kings in 2005. I was one of very few who did. Devil Kings was a predictable flop, while the Sengoku Basara series, particularly after the sequel, would enjoy quite the run of success in Japan, including further sequels and an arcade fighting game, a ton of merch, the obligatory anime, and a growing fan base with a significant percentage of girls drawn to the pretty boys and the ease with which one could imagine them making out with each other. The series is credited with increasing cultural interest in Sengoku-era Japan, though it wouldn't reach Westerners again for another 5 years. We never got Sengoku Basara 2, with Capcom likely deciding it wasn't worth the time and money. By the time the third game rolled around, there was a change of heart. Not only would we get Sengoku Basara 3, it would drop the Devil Kings crap and act like the start of a new Sengoku Basara series. And that brings us to the game I'm focusing on with my heaps of praise, Sengoku Basara Samurai Heroes. Oh, it's the best. My first experience with Samurai Heroes was at E3, where I was passing Capcom's array of demo units and saw a familiar logo. Sengoku Basara, to my disbelief, was running merrily on a Nintendo Wii. Something I hadn't seen since Devil Kings, which somehow flew completely under my radar, was just sitting there waiting for me to stumble on it. There were no cues, nobody was playing it. I immediately went over, I tried it and I thought, yep, that's pretty good. 14 years later, and after a few weeks with an old Wii copy of the thing, I no longer think it's pretty good. I am fixated on it. It's incredible. I'm going to tell you why.
Magoichi. How dare you!
What? Do you have something to say to me?
Lord Hideyoshi, please grant me permission to kill her!
If I could sum up Sengoku Basara Samurai Heroes' general concept in one word, it would be Ieyasu.
Ieyasu! Ieyasu! Ieyasu!
The wangsty man drama around which this game's plot revolves is its own unique level of hilarious. I truly do mean it when I say this is Troy Baker's finest work. The mentally cracked contempt he spits with every line, lines that would collapse under the weight of their own cringiness if they weren't committed to with 200% sincerity, is simply sublime.
Ieyasu, your sins have found you out!
Mitsunari Ishida, obsessed with killing Ieyasu Tokugawa for slaying his beloved Lord Hideyoshi, speaks of his nemesis the way an emotionally unstable man would talk about an ex-girlfriend, to the point where even supporting characters remark on the implications.
It always has to be this way dealing with you, doesn't it?
While some of the hilarity is undoubtedly unintentional, Sengoku Basara 3 makes it clear that it knows exactly what it's doing, embracing its own silliness with slapstick goofs, fourth wall breaks, ridiculous characters, and borderline surreal comedy. There's a level that takes place around a gigantic soup bowl full of vegetables the size of buses. One fight regularly gives us the inner monologue of the guy we're fighting as he thinks about about his wife, ponders getting a dog, and remembers he's got a book to finish reading at home. That is just something that happens on one level and never remarked upon. This posh knob end is accompanied by cartoon sound effects. Because why not? If you've already established that steampunk AT-AT walkers and tanks in the shape of a religious messiah's head are part of your historical recreation, nothing less than comprehensive absurdity is going to work. In a medium full of insecure studios who are desperate to be taken seriously and push realism as the most important goal, games from mainstream publishers that are so utterly batshit are to be treasured. As I said earlier, fundamentally, Sengoku Basara resembles the kind of mindless button masher one expects from a Warriors-style game, and it can be played perfectly well as one. However, with a dedicated amount of hacking and slashing, one can't help eventually discovering that it's capable of some deceptively clever and complex stuff. Until you start looking, Samurai Heroes first feels even more shallow than Dynasty Warriors is. Characters lack the ability to string normal and strong attacks together in order to create new moves, having only one string of normal attacks and some separate special attacks. This makes the button mashing a one-track process with nothing to vary it up. Dick around with those special moves enough, however, and, well, perhaps I should just show you. So, this is Modenari Mori. My favourite character in the game. Is a world-class dickhead. His main thing is, boink, he drops 4 little archers, and they will just automatically fire like a turret. We've got a ring that traps people and squishes on them, and this barrier. Like that. Now that deflects projectiles. It also deflects people if we set up a barrier. You level it up enough, you can set up 2. Level it even more, it sucks people in like a vortex. And remember what I said about it bouncing people. We just turn everyone into pinball bitches. If I throw the ring, it bounces off the barriers. Oh, and lest I forget, those archers earlier, do that. We can play bowling with them. Sengoku Basara's characters have all sorts of hidden depths in their mechanics. Abilities can synergize with each other or have secondary properties that expand as they level up. Some have quirks or methods of altering their behaviour that the game never tells you about. With experimentation, you can get a variety of uses out of one straightforward attack, and find that skills you thought were useless are secretly awesome. Some abilities change how attacks work while active and vice versa, and characters are different enough that each one requires its own figuring out. Like even the rather innocuous and basic taunt command can, for a few characters, have a secret effect on their attacks. Keiji Maeda perhaps demonstrates the gulf of depth between Sengoku Basara and other Musou games. See, he behaves much more like a Dynasty Warriors character than anyone else, but actually, I can just show you. He works the closest to a Dynasty Warriors character. That's just his normal attack string, and then if you do various normal attacks followed by strong attacks in different numbered combinations, then he does different moves, which I'm doing now. He just has a shitload more stuff on top. And then if I keep hammering the normal attack, he'll just keep going with it. And we're not done with that. Hammer the normal attack, then strong attack again, then normal attack, and he does an air combo. But yeah, he has that as a separate special ability. And then, most important of all, he has a pet monkey. Sengoku Basara is imaginative. That's the best way to describe the ideas it's stuffed with. Every character is distinct in their fighting styles and mechanics, yet retain a basic air of hack and slash simplicity on the surface. Even better, the rule of cool is adhered to strictly enough that balance flies completely out of the window in favour of giving characters awesome, over-the-top stuff to do. Even if said stuff can trivialise or break certain aspects of the game. Is it fair that Magoichi's guns can let her just walk around like the Terminator and blast the hell out of anything from a distance? No, but it's fun to be the gunny mummy, so does it even matter? Speaking of mummies, Yoshitsugu can access a super move that is, in essence, a gigantic turbo-powered magical wheelchair that smashes into basically everything and gives him gameplay wrecking speed. There's no cooldown on it. No mana pool it draws from. You can just turn into a giant accessibility chariot from hell when you want, for as long as you want, as many times as you want. Oh, and if the wheelchair doesn't appeal, chair? Well, characters can equip one of 3 potential super moves, and one of Yoshitsugu's is literally the Frenzied Flame from Elden Ring. I love this game. Sengoku Basara's fruitful vein of imagination doesn't just run through its active gameplay mechanics. Take the weapon accessories for example. Weapons are capable of having up to 6 accessories equipped that confer passive upgrades to the wielder. Many of them are the kind of stuff you'd expect. Attack stat boosts, increased critical rate, various resistances, etc. And that's all dandy, but you can blow one of these precious accessory slots on, say, a loot charm that plays the game's awesome theme tune during battle. Or my personal favourite, the support beam, which does nothing other than turn your allied soldiers into fanboys, including the guy who tells you he made a mask of your face that he enjoys wearing. There's even an opposing accessory that has your allies basically neg you instead. And yes, you can equip both. It's utterly frivolous, but it's funny, so it made the cut. Did I mention that Masamune Date fights with not 1, not 2, but 6 katanas? I think that's very, very important to bring up. The weapons on show are a spectrum of creativity in and of themselves. Yukimura dual-wielding pikes, Kanbei bashing people with the giant bull he's shackled to, Motochika flailing a giant anchor around. Like I've said, the series runs on rule of cool. If it can be wielded with audacity and style, a Sengoku Basara character will batter someone with it. Sengoku Basara also knows how to hit the dopamine button with its combo system, which has been with the series from the start. It should hardly be surprising that a Capcom game makes a big deal out of connecting hundreds of hits in rapid succession without taking damage, but Basara's system starts making coins explode out of enemies after 200 successful attacks. Whenever you take over a territory by defeating the guy stood in his cuck shed, a huge explosion kicks off, dealing damage and contributing potentially hundreds of combo hits, before spawning loads of enemies who run around panicking and exist purely as a means to keep the chain going. It's a brilliant way of encouraging you to do so. Get to 500 hits and you initiate a state which multiplies the coins in delightful golden showers. So I better edit that line.
Echo effect counts as editing. I have done my job.
In truth, the gold you get only really goes into accessory crafting, and you won't need to do that much unless you're going for completion, but by God, once you start getting combos into the thousands, you don't want to stop. I really love the whole system. It feeds into the game's overall philosophy, stylishness and utter, total extravagance. If I were to pick the element that impresses me the most, it would have to be the animations. Here, Sengoku Basara goes above and beyond in ways you might not even appreciate if you aren't paying attention. Every attack is luxuriously animated, both hammering home the overall stylishness of the game and communicating the personality of each character. The sheer detail with which attacks are rendered constantly impresses me. While the action often moves too quickly to appreciate it, any moments of slow motion, like after you kill one of the guys sitting in their cuck sheds, will show you all the little flourishes accompanying their every move. I adore how Keiji tosses his weapon from one hand to the other during attack sequences, or the casual little lean Mitsunari does before zooming around his enemies like Sonic the Hedgehog. Somehow it just radiates sneering. Oichi is one of the finest examples. An archetypal broken bird of a character, she's only vaguely above the realm of the catatonic. Her lifeless lurching movements helped along by a pair of shadowy hands that essentially puppeteer her for any motion beyond her cognitive capabilities. Her sprint animation, in which her hands carry her limp body around, is simply beautiful. When she mounts a horse, the hands gently lift her onto it. In fact, characters each have their own unique ways of interacting with things like horses and zip wires. Here's Yoshitsugu turning his floating orb weapons into a hook for sliding. The way everyone moves, from their attacks to their taunts to the way they run, jump, and interact with things, communicates their personalities in ways that many contemporary and more graphically intensive games rarely ever approach. It's easy not to notice among all the flashy chaos, but the death animations are incredible. Yoshihiro might be the worst playable character in the bloody genre, but the way he dies, slumping down his own dropped sword as it embeds in the ground, is just, well, just bloody look at it. Even generic mooks are given plenty of personality, like the way in which they pratfall when caught by Ieyasu's shockwave, or desperately scrabble to avoid being sucked up by Modenari's barrier vortex. They have more than one animation to portray them getting knocked over, or when they're panicking and trying to flee. And this is for a 14-year-old game, the version of which I'm showing being the Wii one.
It's hard to walk in his armor. You see?
Sengoku Basara is not without its problems, of course. While there are some interesting remixed versions of stages, there's not a ton of them, and the replaying to level up characters gets very old, not least for the fact that many of these stages have pop-up screens with instructions that almost always boil down to capture some bases to do the thing. They pause the game and need cancelling every time you play, which is Maps are pretty small and limited and play the same way every time. The small pool of constantly repeated voice lines from generic soldiers can get maddening with extended play. Even with their synergies and hidden tricks, movesets can still be a bit limited in terms of unlocking new moves, all of which become available long before you've maxed someone out. Difficulty settings are still a thing to navigate. Samurai Heroes operates on what I call Dynasty Warriors 3 rules, where a brand new character should start on easy and level up a bit before tackling normal, and that big swipe move that Shedcucks can pull off after tanking your attacks. I can never cancel my moves in time to block, and it sends you bloody flying. There's just something, I don't know, snide about it. It feels snidey. Stupid Shedcucks. Oh, that was a name that was bestowed upon them by chat in my many Sengoku Basara live streams of late. Oh, I just remembered as well. I think Sengoku Basara has the worst horse controls of any game ever, and I know that's saying a lot. They're hard enough to steer without the automatic drift boosting. Just plain unpleasant to use, and you'll get anywhere faster by just sprinting. Basically, you need to really love these types of games to spend an extended amount of time in them, but then again, that's par for this whole genre's course. And if you know me, you know I'm in it for the long haul. Oh, and the biggest problem with Samurai Heroes and the series overall is that some of the most unique and funny characters are relegated to NPC status, despite having working movesets. And it's basically a sales tactic. Yes, the thing that hurt Devil Kings is something that would plague the whole series. Characters that are clearly playable, withheld from players like me, who want to get a hold of that sexy edgy boy with the scythes. One of the similarities Sengoku Basara shares with Dynasty Warriors is, sadly, the knowledge that you can re-release the same game with a few new characters a little bit later down the line. Even worse, Sengoku Basara 3 Utagi never made it to the West, as Samurai Heroes, our version of 3, would turn out to be the last game in the series the West would ever get. Like, in order to use my old save file, I'm gonna need to mod my Wii and get an import copy, and that's even if the save data plays nicely. I mean, I know I could emulate it, but like, I don't know, it's nice playing it on the Wii. Yep, that really was it. In Japan, the series would continue with Sengoku Basara 4 in 2015, followed by Sengoku Basara Sanada Yukimura Den, a game focused on the character of Yukimura. Throughout this time, the anime would run complete with accompanying movies, 2 mobile games called Card Heroes and Battle Party, and a browser game imaginatively named Browser Sengoku Basara. Tragically, these games would not keep the series alive enough to avoid the obscurity it's stuck in today. With Sanada Yukimura Den selling poorly, it became the last main installment, and we've seen hide nor hair for a very long time. I dream of one day getting a new one, or at least a remaster that might bring the whole series outside of Japan, but that seems quite unlikely, at least for now. Damn though, if we don't need more Sengoku Basaras in the world. I need more Sengoku Basaras. Big, wild, shameless games that dare to be stupid and embrace their own ridiculousness with such confidence, they manage to convert their own cringeworthiness into unmitigated cool. Give me impractical outfits and less practical weapons. Give me hilariously overwrought and overacted dialogue. Give me comedy, anachronism, and wangsty man drama soaked in an ocean of camp. The world has enough joyless realism, and hack and slash games can be the perfect panacea if only their developers commit to being utterly, gloriously absurd. Basically what I'm saying is give Shanghai's claws back, you monsters. There is a rather excellent Reddit post on Reddit that lays out many reasons why Sengoku Basara may never get another installment again. Not least among them, the fact that the producer is a bit of a tit. Well, I should say allegedly a bit of a tit. Intentionally plagiarising Samurai Warriors out of sheer deliberate pettiness, trolling the Samurai Warriors social media accounts, being a ski void to various women, be they young fans or cosplayers or the voice actor for Oichi, just being an abusive wanker, insulting, nasty, horrible, yeah, not nice at all. And I like to think that Sengoku Basara, as many games do, succeeded creatively in spite of that man, certainly not because. I mean, we've seen that with video game management all the time. It is a shame to have to end on a more sour note because my experience with Sengoku Basara of late has been anything but. It's brilliant. It just is. I mean, I've already laid it out. I don't think there's anything more I can say. In fact, I'm filming this at 2 AM, so I can't even scream EARC, which would be a... Yeah, so... it's about as loud as I can go. In fact, I'm gonna go. Thank God for me. Bye. It doesn't really... That was a good video, that. Really good.